Marcus Williams stood at the window of his penthouse office, looking down at the glittering lights of Atlanta. At 45, he had everything money could buy: a successful real estate empire, a mansion in the city's most exclusive neighborhood, and a beautiful wife who turned heads wherever she went. But tonight, his mind wasn't on his achievements. It was on the message he'd just received. "We need to talk," the text from Imani read. "Meet me at our usual place." Marcus loosened his tie, feeling the weight of guilt pressed down on his shoulders. The usual place was a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town, where he'd been meeting Imani in secret for the past 3 months. Every time he saw her, he told himself it would be the last. But he could never stay away. The problem wasn't just that he was cheating on his wife. The real issue was who he was cheating with: his wife's identical twin sister, Maya, his wife of 15 years, and Imani had always been close, inseparable even. They'd built successful careers together, running a high-end fashion boutique that catered to Atlanta's elite. Maya handled the business side, while Imani was the creative force behind their designs. The sisters shared everything, until Marcus came between them. He grabbed his keys and headed for the elevator, remembering the day he first met the twins at a charity gala. Maya had caught his eye immediately with her confident smile and sharp business sense. They'd fallen in love quickly, and Marcus had thought he'd found his perfect match. Maya understood his drive for success, his need to prove himself. She'd supported him when he was just starting out, believed in him when others doubted. The cafe was nearly empty when Marcus arrived. Imani sat at their regular table in the back, stirring her coffee absently. She looked exactly like Maya, but Marcus had learned to spot the subtle differences: the way Imani's smile tilted slightly to the left, how she gestured more when she spoke, the creative spark in her eyes that Maya's business-focused gaze lacked. "This has to stop," Imani said as soon as he sat down. "Maya's starting to suspect something." Marcus felt his heart race. "What do you mean? Did she say something? She keeps asking why I'm always too busy to meet for lunch lately, why I seem distracted at work." Imani's voice cracked. "I saw her looking through my phone yesterday when I left it on my desk. I managed to delete our messages, but..." She shook her head. "I can't keep lying to my sister." Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed. A text from Maya. "Where are you?" The Reynolds want to discuss the downtown project over dinner. He'd completely forgotten about the dinner meeting. It was the kind of thing Maya always remembered. She was his rock, his partner in every sense. The guilt threatened to choke him. "I should go," he said, standing up. But Imani grabbed his hand. "There's something else," she whispered. "Something I need to tell you." That's when Maya walked into the cafe. The silence that followed seemed to last forever. Maya stood frozen in the doorway, her designer handbag slipping from her shoulder. Her eyes moved from Marcus to her sister, then to their joined hands on the table. "So this is your urgent meeting?" Maya's voice was frighteningly calm. The Reynolds deal forgotten, the years of trust shattered in an instant. Marcus let go of Imani's hand, but it was too late. The damage was done. "Maya, I can explain," Imani started, but Maya held up her hand. "Don't." She looked at Marcus, and he saw something die in her eyes. All those late nights at the office, all those business trips. She laughed, a hollow sound that made Marcus flinch. "I actually defended you when people talked, and Marcus would never," I said. "He's different." She turned to leave, then stopped. "By the way, the Reynolds signed with our competitors this morning. I guess you were too busy to return their calls." With that, she walked out, her heels clicking against the floor like a judge's gavel. Marcus started to follow, but Imani's next. Words stopped him cold. "I'm pregnant." The cafe's quiet music seemed to mock the chaos unfolding at their table. Outside, they could hear traffic passing, people going about their normal lives, unaware of the explosion that had just torn 3 lives apart. Marcus sank back into his chair, his world spinning. He'd built his fortune by always being in control, always having a plan. But now, watching Maya's car speed away while Imani sat across from him with tears in her eyes, he realized he'd lost control of everything that truly mattered. Maya drove through Atlanta's streets, with tears blurring her vision. She pulled into the parking lot of her boutique, killed the engine, and finally let herself break down. 15 years of marriage, gone. A lifetime of sisterly trust, shattered. The steering wheel felt cold under her tight grip as sobs shook her body. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Marcus's face kept lighting up the screen, but she couldn't bear to look at it. After 20 missed calls, she finally turned it off. The boutique was dark and quiet, exactly what she needed right now. Maya unlocked the door and walked past the racks of expensive dresses she and Imani had selected together. Everything in this place was wrapped up in memories of her sister. Even their office had 2 desks facing each other, just like when they were kids doing homework together. Maya sat at her desk and opened the bottom drawer. She pulled out the photo album she kept there. Pictures from their childhood, always matching outfits, always together. Their parents had raised them to protect each other, to always put sister before self. Now those memories felt like jokes, with bitter punchlines. The sound of keys in the door made her freeze. Imani walked in. Mascara streaked down her face. "Get out," Maya said, her voice hoarse. "Please, let me explain," Imani begged, taking a step forward. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Maya slammed the photo album shut. "How was it supposed to happen? Were you planning to tell me over Sunday brunch? Pass the mimosas, by the way. I'm sleeping with your husband?" "I tried to end it," Imani said. "So many times. But what? You loved him too much." Maya stood up, knocking her chair over. "Do you know what love is, Imani? Love is what I gave Marcus when he was nothing but a struggling realtor with big dreams. Love is what I gave you when you wanted to quit college, and I stayed up all night, helping you study." She walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. "I made excuses for both of you. When Marcus started coming home late, I told myself he was working hard for our future. When you started acting strange, I thought you were stressed about the boutique." Imani moved closer. "Maya, there's more." "Don't!" Maya spun around. "Don't! You dare tell me you're—" The look on Imani's face said everything. Maya felt the room spin. She grabbed the edge of her desk to steady herself. "You're pregnant." Imani nodded, tears falling freely now. A harsh laugh escaped Maya's throat. "Perfect. Just perfect." She walked to the safe behind her desk and started turning the dial. "You know what the worst part is? I can't even hate you properly because you're my sister, my twin. It's like hating part of myself." The safe clicked open. Maya pulled out a stack of papers and threw them on the desk. "Remember these? The partnership agreement we signed when we opened this place? The one that says either partner can force a buyout if certain conditions are met." Imani's eyes widened. "Maya, no. The boutique is our dream." "Was our dream," Maya corrected her. "I'm invoking the clause. I'll have my lawyers contact you tomorrow with the details." "You can't do this," Imani whispered. "This place is my life. And Marcus was mine." Maya's voice was steel. Funny how life changes. She grabbed her purse and walked toward the door, then stopped. Without turning around, she said, "You know, what hurts the most? Growing up, everyone always said we were identical. Same face, same laugh, same heart. But now I know better. We're nothing alike. Because I could never do to you what you've done to me." The door closed behind her with a final click. Maya walked to her car, her heels echoing in the empty parking lot. Her phone was full of missed calls and messages when she turned it back. On but one caught her eye, from her old college friend James Morrison. "Heard about the Reynolds deal falling through. If you're free, I'd love to discuss a business proposition. My firm is looking to expand into Atlanta." Maya stared at the message for a long moment. James had always been interested in her, even back in college. Marcus had been jealous of him once. The thought brought a bitter smile to her face. She started typing. "Dinner tomorrow? I know a quiet place." As she drove home, Maya passed the cafe where everything had fallen apart just hours ago. It looked so ordinary, just another building on just another street. How could a place that had destroyed her life look so normal? Her house, their house, loomed ahead, all lit up and empty. Maya drove past it without slowing down. She couldn't face those walls tonight, couldn't sleep in that bed. Instead, she headed for the airport Marriott. Tomorrow would be soon enough to start dismantling her life. In her hotel room, Maya finally let herself look at Marcus's messages. The last one read, "Please come home. We need to talk. I love you." She typed back 4 words. "I want a divorce." Then, she turned off her phone, ordered a bottle of wine from room service and started planning her revenge. Because if there was one thing Maya Williams knew how to do, it was turn pain into power. Marcus and Imani had no idea what was coming. Marcus sat in his dark office staring at Maya's 4-word message, "I want a divorce." The bourbon in his glass couldn't dull the pain of knowing he'd destroyed everything he'd spent years building. His phone buzzed again, Imani calling for the 5th time that hour. He let it go to voicemail. The Reynolds deal falling through was just the beginning. Word spread fast in Atlanta's business circles. 3 other major clients had already called to reassess their relationship with Williams Real Estate. His secretary had quit after hearing office gossip about the scandal. Even his board members were sending concerned emails about maintaining the company's reputation. A knock on his office door made him look up. It was Richard Chen, his oldest friend, and the company's chief financial officer. "You look terrible," Richard said, walking in without waiting for an invitation. "Thanks for the update." Marcus took another drink. "If you're here about the Johnson Tower project..." "I'm here because you're not answering your phone and the whole company is falling apart." Richard sat down across from him. "Maya's lawyers contacted HR this morning. She's resigning from her position on the board." Marcus closed his eyes. Of course she was. Maya had helped build this company from the ground up. Her connections, her business sense, her reputation, they'd been as valuable as his own work. "That's not all," Richard continued. "She's selling her shares." Marcus's eyes snapped open. "She can't do that without offering them to existing shareholders first. She is offering them to James Morrison." The name hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. James Morrison, Maya's college friend who'd never hidden his feelings for her. The same James Morrison who now ran one of the largest real estate development firms on the East Coast. "It's a hostile takeover," Marcus realized. "She's helping him take control of my company. Your company that she helped build," Richard reminded him, "while you were busy sleeping with her sister." Marcus stood up and walked to the window. The sigh. Atlanta's skyline had always made him feel powerful, in control. Now it just reminded him of everything he was about to lose. "Imani's pregnant," he said quietly. Richard's sharp intake of breath was the only sound in the room for a long moment. "Well," Richard finally said, "you really messed up this time, didn't you?" Marcus's phone buzzed again. Another message from Imani. "We need to talk about the baby, please." "What am I supposed to do?" Marcus asked, more to himself than Richard. "First, you're going to put down that bourbon and sober up," Richard said, taking the glass from his hand. "Then you're going to call an emergency board meeting. We need to get ahead of this before Morrison makes his move." "And Imani?" "That's your personal mess to figure out." Richard headed for the door, then stopped. "But Marcus, whatever you decide, remember, this town loves a scandal, and right now, you're giving them one hell of a show." After Richard left, Marcus finally called Imani back. Her voice was shaky when she answered. "I went to the doctor today," she said. "I'm 8 weeks along. They did an ultrasound." Marcus sat down heavily in his chair. "Does Maya know how far along you are?" "No." Imani's voice was barely a whisper. "But she will when she realizes it happened during your anniversary trip to the Bahamas." The trip Maya had planned as a surprise, only to be called away at the last minute by a family emergency. The trip where Imani had come instead, saying Maya had asked her to make sure Marcus didn't spend their anniversary alone. "I'm losing everything," Marcus said. "The company, my reputation." "And I'm carrying your child," Imani cut in. "While my sister hates me, my business is being taken away, and I have no idea what to do next. So forgive me if I don't have much sympathy for your problems right now." She hung up, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts and the growing darkness outside his window. His phone lit up with a news alert. Atlanta Business Chronicle, Williams Real Estate in crisis as family scandal rocks company. Below was a photo of him and Maya at last month's charity gala, both smiling, both lying. Another message came through, from Maya's lawyer this time. "Meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. to discuss divorce proceedings." Attendance is mandatory. Marcus reached for the bourbon again, but Richard's words stopped him. He needed to think clearly. He needed a plan, because tomorrow he'd have to face Maya across a conference table and try to save what was left of his life. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd built his fortune by developing property, by creating spaces for other people's lives. Now his own life was crumbling like a condemned building, and he had no idea how to stop it. Outside his office, the cleaning crew moved through the empty halls. Soon they'd reach his door, and he'd have to leave, have to go home to an empty house full of memories he couldn't face. But for now he sat in the darkness, watching his empire slip through his fingers and wondering if anything would be left when the dust settled. The law office of Carter and Associates occupied the top floor of a sleek downtown building. Maya sat in the conference room surrounded by her legal team waiting. The giant window behind her offered a perfect view of the Williams real estate headquarters, a view she'd specifically requested. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah Carter, her lead attorney, asked quietly. Going after his company is one thing, but this level of personal exposure. Maya adjusted her red power suit, a subtle reminder that she was no longer wearing Marcus's favorite color, blue. "Trust me, I know exactly what I'm doing." The door opened, and Marcus walked in with his lawyers. He looked terrible, unshaven, shirt slightly wrinkled. Maya felt a flash of satisfaction. Let him suffer. "Before we begin," Marcus's lawyer started, but Maya cut him off. "Actually, I'd like to speak to my husband alone." She looked directly at Marcus. "Unless you're afraid to face me without your legal shield." The lawyers exchanged glances, but eventually filed out. As soon as the door closed, Maya's calm facade cracked. 8 weeks, she said. "She's 8 weeks pregnant. You got my sister pregnant during our anniversary trip." Marcus flinched. "Maya, please." "You know what's funny?" Maya stood up and walked to the window. "I wasn't really called away for a family emergency that weekend. I was planning your surprise birthday party. I asked Imani to keep you company because I trusted you both." She turned back to him, her eyes hard. "I have a proposition for you." "I'm listening." "Option 1, I go public with everything, not just the affair, everything. The insider trading you did 3 years ago that I covered up, the zoning laws you broke on the Riverside project, the bribes to city officials that I pretended not to notice." Marcus's face went pale. "You wouldn't." "Option 2, Maya continued as if he hadn't spoken. "You sign over controlling interest in the company to me, not to James Morrison, to me. You step down as CEO, citing personal reasons. You get to keep your reputation, at least what's left of it." "That company is my life," Marcus protested, "and Imani was mine." Maya's composure finally broke. "My twin sister, Marcus. Do you have any idea what that means? Every time I look in the mirror, I see her face. Every time I hear my own voice, I hear hers. You didn't just betray me. You made it impossible for me to escape the betrayal." Before Marcus could respond, Maya's phone buzzed. She looked at it and smiled, a cold, calculated smile that made Marcus nervous. "Right on schedule," she said. "What does that mean?" "Turn on the news." Marcus grabbed the remote from the conference table and turned on the wall-mounted TV. The headline made his blood run cold. "Breaking news. Federal investigation into Williams real estate corruption allegations." "What did you do?" he whispered. "Me? Nothing." Maya's smile grew wider. "But it seems someone anonymous sent quite a detailed package to the FBI. Bank records, emails, meeting minutes, very thorough documentation of certain questionable business practices." Marcus sank into a chair. "How you're destroying everything." "No, you did that when you slept with my sister." Maya walked to the door. "You have until the end of the day to decide. Sign over the company or watch it burn down with your reputation." She opened the door and called the lawyers back in. "We're done for now. Mr. Williams needs time to review the terms." As Maya walked out, her phone buzzed again. A message from James. "Dinner tonight? We should celebrate." She typed back, "Not yet, but soon." The elevator ride down was silent, but Maya's mind was racing. Phase 1 of her plan was complete. Now for Phase 2, dealing with Imani. Her driver was waiting outside. "Where to, Mrs. Williams?" "The boutique," Maya said. It's time to collect what's mine. At the boutique, she found Imani sorting through spring collection samples. Her sister's face was puffy from crying, and she had one hand resting protectively on her stomach. "The paperwork is ready," Maya announced. "Sign over your share of the business, and I'll give you enough money to start over somewhere else." "Far away from Atlanta?" Imani looked up, her eyes filling with fresh tears. "You're really going to force me out? You're lucky that's all I'm doing." Maya picked up a designer scarf, one they'd chosen together in Paris last year. "You know, I always wondered why Mom and Dad dressed us alike, made us share everything. Maybe they knew one of us couldn't be trusted to have anything of her own." "That's not fair," Imani protested. "I never meant to fall in love with him." "Love?" Maya laughed bitterly. "You don't destroy someone you love. You don't betray someone you love. What you and Marcus did wasn't love. It was selfishness." She dropped the scarf and pulled out a thick envelope. "Here's the buyout agreement. Sign it, take the money, and disappear. Or I'll make sure every fashion house in the country knows exactly what kind of person you are." Imani took the envelope with shaking hands. "What happened to you? The Maya I know would never be this cruel. The Maya you knew died in that cafe." She headed for the door, then stopped. "Oh, and Imani? When the baby comes, do yourself a favor. Don't dress it in anything from our boutique. Some things should stay in the family." Outside, Maya finally let herself feel the pain she'd been holding back, but she pushed it down quickly. She couldn't afford to be weak, not now. Not when her revenge was just beginning. Her phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. "You win. I'll sign." Maya smiled as her driver pulled away from the curb. Sometimes, she thought, the best revenge isn't just about hurting those who hurt you, it's about taking everything they thought they could never lose. Imani sat in her doctor's office, staring at the ultrasound screen. The steady rhythm of her baby's heartbeat filled the room, but her own heart felt like it was breaking. She'd lost everything, her sister, her business, and now, as she looked at the grainy image, she wasn't even sure she could keep this baby. "Your blood pressure is concerning," Dr. Martinez said, frowning at her chart. "The stress you're under isn't good for either of you. I'm ordering bed rest for the next few weeks." Bed rest. In her tiny apartment, surrounded by boxes of everything. She'd managed to take from the boutique before Maya forced her out. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd helped build that business from nothing, and now she couldn't even walk past it without security guards watching her every move. Her phone lit up with a message from Marcus. "We need to talk. It's important." She ignored it, just like she'd ignored his last 20 messages. What was left to say? He'd signed over the company to Maya, chosen his reputation over everything else, even their baby. As she left the doctor's office, a familiar face caught her eye. James Morrison was walking into the building carrying a bouquet of roses. Maya's new boyfriend, the business shark who'd helped her sister destroy Marcus. But something about his expression made Imani pause. She waited in her car, watching. 15 minutes later, James came out, without the flowers. And he wasn't alone. Maya stepped out behind him, wearing large sunglasses despite the cloudy day. Imani's heart stopped. Maya had just had a doctor's appointment, the same doctor who specialized in... No, it couldn't be. But as she watched her sister walk to her car, Imani noticed something she'd missed before. The way Maya's hand rested briefly on her stomach, the same protective gesture Imani had been making for weeks. "Oh my God," Imani whispered. "She's pregnant too." Her hands shaking, she pulled out her phone and did the math. The charity gala, 2 months ago. The night Maya had too much champagne and disappeared for hours. The night James had also mysteriously vanished from the party. The pieces started falling into place. Maya's ruthless takeover of Marcus's company, her sudden relationship with James, her insistence on keeping the divorce proceedings private. Imani started her car and followed her sister's Mercedes at a safe distance. Instead of heading back to the office, Maya drove to a small cafe, not their usual upscale spots, but a quiet place in a neighborhood where no one would recognize them. Through the cafe window, Imani watched as Maya and James sat in a corner booth. Maya took off her sunglasses, and for the first time in weeks, Imani saw her sister's face clearly. The makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes, the strain around her mouth. James reached across the table and took Maya's hand. They talked intensely for several minutes. Then Maya started crying. Not the controlled tears she'd shown in public since the scandal broke, but real, messy sobs that shook her shoulders. Imani's phone buzzed again, another message from Marcus. Maya's selling the company to Morrison. All of it. I don't understand. Why give up her revenge? Now Imani understood. Maya wasn't giving up her revenge. She was protecting herself. A baby with James Morrison would be the final twist of the knife, the ultimate way to replace everything she'd lost. But only if no one knew the timing of the pregnancy. She was about to drive away when Maya looked up and their eyes met through the window. For a moment they were little girls again, sharing secrets no one else could understand. Then Maya's face hardened and she turned away. Imani drove to the only person who needed to know the truth. Marcus's office was dark when she arrived, but she knew he'd be there. These days he never went home before midnight. I thought you weren't answering my messages, he said when she walked in. Maya's pregnant, Imani said without preamble. Marcus looked up sharply. What? With James Morrison's baby, from the night of the charity gala. Imani sat down heavily. She's selling the company because she can't hide it much longer. Once people know she's pregnant, they'll do the math, Marcus finished. They'll realize she was with James before our marriage fell apart, before she became the wronged wife. Her perfect revenge story falls apart. Imani felt tears rolling down her cheeks. We're not so different after all, are we? All this time she's been playing the victim, but she's just like me. Marcus walked to the window, his last night with this view. Tomorrow, James Morrison would own everything. What do you want to do? He asked quietly. Imani thought about Maya's face in the cafe window, about the baby growing inside her own body, about the twisted web of lies and love and betrayal they'd all woven. I want my sister back, she whispered. But that's impossible. Now isn't it? Before Marcus could answer, his phone rang. It was Richard, his CFO. Turn on the news, Richard said urgently. Now. The TV flickered to life and their world exploded all over again, because there, standing at a press conference podium, was James Morrison, and he was announcing his engagement to Maya Williams. God. Help us all to us, Marcus muttered, watching his wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, slip a massive diamond ring onto her finger and smile for the cameras. The game had changed, and no one knew the rules anymore. Richard Chen paced his office, watching the media frenzy unfold on every channel. Maya and James's engagement announcement had exploded across Atlanta's social scene. The story was irresistible. The wronged wife finding love with a billionaire, the fairy tale ending everyone wanted to believe in. But Richard knew better. He'd been Marcus's friend long enough to smell a lie, and this whole thing stank of deception. So you need to see this, he said when Marcus walked in, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Richard handed him a folder. Remember when you asked me to look into Morrison's finances? Marcus opened the folder and started reading. His face went from exhausted to alert in seconds. This can't be right, Marcus said, flipping through the pages. These transactions are all fake, Richard finished. Morrison's empire is built on paper. He's been running a Ponzi scheme for years, using new investments to pay off old debts. The only reason he hasn't been caught is that he keeps acquiring new companies to hide the money trail. And now he wants Williams Real Estate. Marcus sat down heavily. Does Maya know that her new fiancé is about to become the biggest financial scandal since Bernie Madoff? I doubt it. Richard took the folder back. But that's not all. Look at the date of these transactions. Marcus looked closer, and his face went pale. The charity gala. While everyone thought he was upstairs with Maya, Morrison was in the hotel business center, transferring millions between shell companies. Richard leaned forward. Your wife's been played, Marcus. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Before Marcus could answer, his phone rang. It was Imani. Maya's at the boutique, she said, her voice shaking. She's clearing everything out. She's selling it to some big fashion chain. What? She can't do that without your signature. She forged it. Imani was crying now. I'm watching them take everything away, our whole life's work. Marcus grabbed his keys. I'm on my way. Richard, get those files to the SEC, now. The boutique was chaos when Marcus arrived. Workers were carrying out racks of clothes, boxes of inventory, everything Maya and Imani had built together. Maya stood in the middle of it all, directing the removal like a general commanding troops. You need to stop this, Marcus said, walking up to her. Maya turned, her engagement ring catching the light. I don't take orders from you anymore. No? How about from the SEC? He watched her face carefully. Morrison's a fraud, Maya. His whole empire is built on lies, just like your engagement. For a moment, something flickered in Maya's eyes. Fear? But she covered it quickly. You're pathetic, she spat. Making up stories because you can't stand to see me happy. Happy? Imani's voice cut through the noise. She stood in the doorway, one hand on her pregnant belly. Is that what you call this? Destroying everything we built? We? Maya laughed. I built this. While you were sleeping with my husband, I was the one keeping this business alive. That's not true, Imani said quietly. And you know it. Just like you know what really happened at the charity gala. Maya's face went white. Get out. Where was James really that night, Maya? Because we have proof he wasn't with you. I said get out. Maya grabbed a nearby vase and threw it. It shattered against the wall, sending water and flowers everywhere. To me, workers stopped staring at the scene unfolding before them. Maya's perfect composure cracked, mascara running down her cheeks. You don't understand, she whispered. None of you understand. I had to do something. I couldn't just be the victim, the poor stupid wife who didn't know her husband was sleeping with her twin. So you slept with James, Marcus said. To what? Get even? To feel something, Maya screamed. To feel anything except betrayed and broken and she swayed suddenly, her hand going to her stomach. Imani moved forward instinctively, sister reaching for sister, but Maya pushed her away. Don't touch me. She stumbled backward. I don't need your help. I don't need anyone's. Her eyes rolled back and she collapsed. Marcus caught her before she hit the floor. Call an ambulance. As they waited for help to arrive, Maya's phone started ringing. The screen showed James's face, but beneath it was a news alert. Breaking news, FBI raids. Morrison Industries. Offices. Imani picked up the phone and declined the call. Then she knelt beside her unconscious sister, taking her hand. I'm right here, she whispered. I'm not leaving you again. The sound of sirens filled the air as workers and customers gathered. Outside the boutique, watching through the windows as the drama unfolded. Inside, among the half-empty racks and scattered clothes, 3 broken people waited for help to arrive, each wondering how they'd ended up here. And somewhere across town, James Morrison was about to learn that his carefully constructed world was crumbling, just like the lives he'd tried to buy and sell in his game of revenge and ambition. The hospital waiting room buzzed with tension. Marcus sat with his head in his hands, while Imani paced back and forth, both waiting for news about Maya. The TV mounted on the wall kept showing footage of James Morrison being led out of his office in handcuffs, his empire crumbling in real time. Family of Maya Williams? A doctor in blue scrubs approached them. I'm her sister, Imani said, stepping forward. How is she? She's stable now, but... The doctor glanced at her chart. Given her condition, the stress levels she's experiencing are extremely dangerous. For both her and the baby. Marcus looked up sharply. Can we see her? She's asking for her sister. Only her sister. Imani followed the doctor down the sterile hallway, her heart pounding. Maya lay in the hospital bed, looking small and vulnerable, without her power suits and perfect makeup. The steady beep of monitors filled the room. You fainted, Imani said softly, sitting in the chair beside the bed. They arrested James. Maya's voice was barely a whisper. It's all over the news. Yes. Did you know? About his fraud? Marcus found out today. That's why we came to the boutique. Imani hesitated. Maya, about the gala night. I wasn't drunk. Maya turned to look at her sister, tears sliding down her face. I knew exactly what I was doing. I saw you and Marcus together earlier that day, whispering, laughing, I thought. I thought I'd lost everything already. So when James started flirting, you wanted revenge. I wanted to feel in control again. Maya's hand moved to her stomach. I never meant for this to happen. A nurse came in to check Maya's vitals, interrupting their conversation. When she left, Maya spoke again. Do you remember when we were kids and I broke Mom's favorite vase? Imani nodded. I told her I did it because you were already in trouble for something else. You always protected me. Maya's voice cracked. Until you didn't. I fell in love with him, Imani whispered. I know it's wrong, but I did. And now... She touched her own pregnant belly. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Our babies will be cousins, born around the same time. Maya, I'm so tired of being angry. Maya turned away, staring out the window. But I don't know how to stop. Outside in the hallway, Marcus was on the phone with Richard. Morrison's being charged with securities fraud, money laundering, everything they can throw at him, Richard was saying. The feds are freezing all his assets, including his shares in Williams' real estate. What about Maya's shares? She never actually transferred them to him. The paperwork wasn't finalized. Richard paused. You could still save the company, Marcus. But you'd need Maya's cooperation. Marcus watched through the window as the twins talked. Even now their gestures mirrored each other, the same way of pushing hair behind their ears, the same slight tilt of the head. His phone buzzed with another call. Olivia Morrison, James's ex-wife. I saw the news, she said when he answered. There's something you should know about James, about what really happened the night of the gala. As Olivia spoke, Marcus felt his world shift again. He walked into Maya's room, interrupting the sisters' conversation. Maya, he said urgently. The night of the gala, did James give you a drink? Maya frowned. Yes, champagne. Why? Was it already poured when he brought it to you? Marcus, what's going on? Imani asked. Olivia just called. The FBI found evidence in James's office. He's done this before, targeted wealthy women, drugged them, created compromising situations. It was all part of his scheme. Maya's face went pale. No, that's not... I knew what I was doing. Did you? Marcus moved closer. Or did you wake up the next morning feeling confused with only fragments of memory? Maya's monitor started beeping faster as tears filled her eyes. I remember feeling strange, heavy. He said it was just the champagne, but Imani grabbed her sister's hand. Oh, Maya, he was never after revenge, Marcus said quietly. He was after the company, both our companies. He knew targeting Maya was the perfect way to destroy me and get everything he wanted. Maya was crying openly now, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Imani climbed onto the bed and held her sister as she broke down. I never... Maya couldn't form complete sentences through her tears. Shh, Imani soothed, rocking her gently. We've got you. You're safe now. Marcus watched the sisters cling to each other, remembering how it used to be before everything fell apart, before his own selfishness and weakness had opened the door for someone like James Morrison to waltz in and shatter what was left. The TV in Maya's room was still showing coverage of Morrison's arrest, but now there were new headlines scrolling. Across the bottom, multiple victims come forward and pattern of predatory behavior revealed. Maya's sobs gradually quieted, but she kept hold of Imani's hand. What happens now? Now, Marcus said, we fight back, together. Outside the hospital, window storm clouds were gathering over Atlanta. But inside that room, something long broken was slowly, carefully beginning to heal. The district attorney's office was crowded with women, all of them successful, all of them victims of James Morrison. Maya sat between Marcus and Imani, listening, as prosecutor Sarah Martinez laid out their options. With your testimony, we can put him away for a long time, Sarah said, looking directly at Maya. But I understand if you don't want to take the stand. This kind of publicity... I'll do it, Maya interrupted. Her hand found Imani's and squeezed. I won't let him do this to anyone else. It had been 2 weeks since the truth about James came out. 2 weeks of headlines, of reporters camping outside their homes, of painful revelations about just how many lives he'd destroyed. "Mrs. Williams," Sarah continued, "there's something else you should know. The FBI found evidence that Mr. Morrison specifically targeted your family. He'd been watching you for months before the gala." Marcus leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Sarah pulled out a laptop and opened a file. "We found this in his private server. It's a background report on all of you. The Williams family's finances, the boutique's success, even details about your marriage problems." Maya felt sick. He knew about Marcus and Imani. He had photos. It seems he hired private investigators to follow you all. Sarah's voice softened. He was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The gala wasn't an opportunity, it was his plan all along. Outside the DA's office, reporters swarmed them. Maya stepped forward, Imani at her side. "I have a statement to make," Maya announced, her voice steady. "James Morrison is a predator who has hurt many women. Today, I'm adding my voice to theirs. What he did to me, to my family, to all of us. It ends now." Back at the boutique, now closed for renovation, Maya walked through the empty space. The workers she'd hired to clear it out had left everything in chaos. "We can rebuild it," Imani said, following her sister inside. "Make it better than before." Maya touched a rack of dresses they'd designed together. "I was so angry, I nearly destroyed everything we created. We all did things we regret." Imani rested her hand on her growing belly. "But maybe that's not the end of the story." Marcus appeared in the doorway. "The board meeting just finished. They've agreed to halt all proceedings until after the trial." "And the company?" Maya asked. "It's still ours, all of it." He stepped closer. "If you want it to be." Maya looked between her sister and her husband, the two people she'd loved most, who had hurt her deepest, who were now standing with her against a common enemy. "I have conditions," she said finally. "Name them," Marcus replied. "First, we restructure everything. The company, the boutique. It all becomes one family corporation. Equal ownership. Between the three of us." Imani's eyes widened. "Maya..." "Second," Maya continued, "we get help. Real help. Professional counseling. Both individually and together." Marcus nodded. "Done." "And third..." Maya took a deep breath. "These babies, they're going to grow up knowing their family. Cousins, siblings, whatever they end up being to each other, they're family. No secrets, no lies, no using them as weapons against each other." Tears rolled down Imani's cheeks as she hugged her sister. Maya held her tight, feeling the slight bump of their pregnancies pressed together. Marcus watched them, remembering the first time he'd seen them together, at that long-ago charity gala. They'd been so in sync then, finishing each other's sentences, sharing secret smiles. Maybe they could find their way back to that. "There's one more thing," he said. The sisters turned to look at him. "The FBI found something else in Morrison's files. Something about your parents' accident 5 years ago." Maya's grip on Imani tightened. "What about it?" "It wasn't an accident." Marcus pulled out his phone and showed them an email chain. Morrison's company owned the trucking firm involved in the crash. He buried the maintenance records that showed the brakes were faulty. He knew your parents were about to invest in a competitor's business. The sisters stared at the evidence in shock. Their parents' death had brought them closer, made them rely on each other more than ever. And all this time, "He's going to pay," Maya said, her voice hard, "for everything." A flash of lightning illuminated the boutique, followed by thunder. The storm that had been threatening all day finally broke, rain hammering against the windows. "We should go," Marcus said. "The DA wants to prep you for testimony tomorrow." But Maya and Imani stayed where they were, holding each other in the growing darkness. Outside, Atlanta's society buzzed with speculation about the Morrison scandal, about the Williams family drama, about what would happen next. Inside the boutique, 3 people who had lost their way were finding it again. One painful step at a time, and somewhere in a federal holding cell, James Morrison was about to learn that the women he'd tried to destroy were stronger together than he could have ever imagined. The courthouse steps were packed with reporters as Maya walked up them, Marcus on one side, Imani on the other. Both sisters were showing now, Their 5-month pregnancies impossible to hide. The headlines had been brutal: twin scandals, sister wives, dynasty disaster. But today wasn't about headlines. Today was about justice. Inside the courtroom, James Morrison sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, a far cry from his usual designer suits. He turned as Maya entered, his eyes cold and calculating even now. "All rise," the bailiff called as Judge Patricia Henderson entered. Maya took the witness stand, her hand steady as she swore to tell the truth. Prosecutor Sarah Martinez approached. "Mrs. Williams, can you tell us about the night of the charity gala?" Maya looked directly at James as she spoke. "I was vulnerable. My marriage was falling apart. Mr. Morrison knew that. He'd been watching, all of us waiting for his moment. What happened after he brought you the champagne?" Things get fuzzy after that. Maya's voice shook slightly. "I remember feeling strange, heavy. The room was spinning. He said he'd take me somewhere quiet to lie down." "Did you consent to any intimate contact with the defendant?" "No." Maya's voice grew stronger. "I couldn't consent. I could barely stay conscious." James's lawyer stood up. "Objection. My client has evidence of Mrs. Williams's willing participation in their relationship." "Your Honor," Sarah countered, "we have evidence that Mr. Morrison has used this same tactic on at least 7 other women." "The pattern is clear." "Overruled," Judge Henderson said. "Continue, Mrs. Williams." Maya told everything: the drugged champagne, the fake romance, the manipulation of her pain and anger. As she spoke, other women in the courtroom nodded, their own similar stories written on their faces. During the lunch break, Maya found herself in the bathroom, suddenly nauseous. Morning sickness hadn't completely passed yet. As she splashed water on her face, another woman came in. Tall, elegant, with sad eyes. "I'm Caroline," the woman said. "Caroline Morrison, James's first wife." Maya straightened up. "I didn't know you were here. I've been at every day of the trial." Caroline handed her a paper towel. "I need to tell you something. About the night your parents died." Maya's heart stopped. "What about it?" "James came home late that night. His clothes were dirty, like he'd been on the road. He was acting strange, nervous. The next morning, when we heard about the accident," Caroline's voice cracked, "I found receipts in his coat. He'd been out on that same road, following your parents' car." "Are you saying the faulty brakes weren't an accident? He sabotaged them himself?" "I was too scared to come forward then, but I'm not scared anymore." Maya gripped the sink, her knees weak. "Why? Why would he do that?" "Because your father was about to expose one of his earliest schemes." "James couldn't let that happen." Caroline touched Maya's arm gently. "I've given everything to the DA. He's not just going away for fraud, Maya. He's going away for murder." Back in the courtroom, Maya could barely focus as James's lawyer tried to paint her as a scorned woman out for revenge. All she could think about was her parents, about James's hands on their car, about the last phone call she'd had with her mother just hours before the crash. When it was time for James to take the stand, he played his part perfectly. The successful businessman brought down by a conspiracy of angry women. But his mask slipped when Sarah Martinez started asking about the night of Maya's parents' death. "Mr. Morrison, can you explain these receipts?" Sarah held up the evidence Caroline had provided. For the first time, James looked uncertain. "I don't recall." "They place you on Route 41 the night Thomas and Eleanor Jenkins died, the same road where their car crashed due to brake failure." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Maya felt Imani grab her hand. "Furthermore," Sarah continued, "we have testimony from your former mechanic stating that you asked him about ways to tamper with brake lines that would make failure look like an accident." James's face went pale. His lawyer frantically whispered in his ear, but he pushed him away and stood up. "They were going to ruin everything," he snarled, his composure finally cracking. "Thomas Jenkins and his self-righteous morality. He wouldn't take the deal, wouldn't look the other way. He had to be stopped." The judge banged her gavel as chaos broke out in the courtroom. Maya and Imani clung to each other, tears streaming down their faces. Marcus wrapped his arms around both of them as court officers led James away, still ranting about conspiracies and betrayals. Outside, Rain had started falling again. The three of them stood under Marcus's umbrella, watching reporters scramble. "For cover. Mom and Dad would be proud of you," Imani said softly. "Standing up to him like that." Maya touched her sister's belly, then her own. "They'd be proud of all of us, for finding our way back to each other." Marcus's phone buzzed Richard with news from the office. "The board wants to meet tomorrow. Something about a new direction for the company." "Tell them yes," Maya said. "But not tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to visit Mom and Dad, all of us together." As they walked to their car, photographers snapped pictures of the unlikely trio. The husband, the wife, the sister, all their sins and secrets laid bare, all their wounds slowly healing. They had a long way to go. Trust wouldn't come back overnight. Love had to be rebuilt, stronger this time, with truth as its foundation. But they had something now they'd lost along the way: hope. And in the end, that was enough to start with. 6 months had passed since James Morrison's conviction. The headlines had moved on to other scandals, other dramas, but in the maternity ward of St. Luke's Hospital, a different kind of story was unfolding. Maya gripped the bed rails, sweat dampening her hair. "Where's Imani?" "Right here," Marcus said, holding her hand. "They're prepping her for her C-section in the next room." The sisters had gone into labor within hours of each other, their bodies in sync one final time. Dr. Martinez moved between their rooms, monitoring both deliveries. "I need to see her," Maya insisted, trying to sit up despite her contractions. A nurse wheeled Imani's bed into the room. "Your sister," said the same thing. The twins reached for each other across the space between their beds, hands clasping tight as another contraction hit them both. "Remember when we were 7, Imani gasped. "And we promised to have our babies on the same day." Maya laughed through her tears. "I don't think this is what Mum and Dad had in mind." The delivery room became a blur of activity as both sisters' monitors started beeping urgently. Dr. Martinez took charge, directing her team with calm efficiency. "Baby A is crowning," she announced from Maya's side. Then, to her assistant at Imani's bed, "Begin the C-section now." Marcus stood between the beds, torn between his wife and the mother of his child, until Maya shoved him toward Imani. "Go," she ordered. "She needs you more right now." The next few minutes were a symphony of beeping machines, encouraging shouts, and finally, the most beautiful sound in the world, 2 distinct cries joining together in perfect harmony. "It's a girl," Dr. Martinez said, placing Maya's daughter on her chest. "A boy," another doctor announced from Imani's side. Through her exhausted haze, Maya looked at her sister. Imani was crying as she held her son, Marcus beaming down at them. "Both?" "Eleanor," Maya whispered, naming her daughter after their mother. "Thomas," Imani said softly, honoring their father. Hours later, in a private room large enough for both beds, the sisters lay holding their babies, while Marcus dozed in a chair between them. The TV was muted, but they could see the news ticker. "James Morrison sentenced to life without parole." "I've been thinking," Maya said, stroking Eleanor's dark curls, "about the boutique." Imani looked up from Thomas's sleeping face. "What about it?" "We should reopen it, but different this time. A new line, luxury baby clothes." "Maya, I mean it." Maya's voice grew stronger. "We were always better together than apart. The company, the boutique, everything. It works when we're on the same side." "What about Marcus?" They both looked at him, snoring softly in his uncomfortable chair. "He's part of it too," Maya said. "All of us together. These babies deserve to grow up in a family that's whole. Different maybe, but whole." A knock at the door interrupted them. Richard walked in carrying 2 giant teddy bears and looking completely out of place. "The board sent these," he said awkwardly, "along with their congratulations, and they approved your proposal." Maya smiled. "All of it?" "All of it. The merger, the restructuring, the new division, everything." Richard set down the bears. "Williams and Jenkins Enterprises is officially a family company again." After he left, Imani shifted Thomas in her arms. "You never told me about a proposal." "I've had a lot of time to think these past months," Maya said. "About what Mum and Dad built, about what we almost lost. I submitted a plan to combine everything. Your designs, my business sense, Marcus's development skills. but with a new focus on community, on family. Using James's conviction money? Seems fitting, doesn't it? Taking what he stole and using it to help people. Maya kissed Eleanor's forehead. The Jenkins Family Foundation will help other families rebuild after trauma, and the company will be something we can all be proud of. Marcus stirred in his chair. Are you two plotting without me? Always, the sisters said in unison, then laughed, a real laugh like they used to share before everything fell apart. Eleanor and Thomas chose that moment to wake up, their cries mingling together just as they had at birth. As Maya fed her daughter and Marcus helped Imani with Thomas, the last bits of tension melted away. They weren't the same people who had started this journey. Maya's perfect marriage had crumbled, but something stronger had grown in its place. Imani's secret love had brought both pain and joy. Marcus had lost everything only to gain a different kind of wealth. And now in this quiet hospital room, with Atlanta's lights twinkling outside like stars, they were writing a new chapter. Not just for themselves, but for the two innocent lives, who would grow up knowing nothing of scandal or betrayal, only love in all its complicated, messy, beautiful forms. You know what this means, Imani said, as Thomas drifted back to sleep. They're going to be just like us. God help. It's us all, Marcus muttered, but he was smiling. Maya looked at her daughter, at her nephew, at her sister, and the man they had both loved. The past couldn't be changed, but the future was full of possibilities. No, she said softly. They're going to be better, because they'll have all of us together. Outside, the sun was rising over Atlanta, painting the sky in shades of hope. In the maternity ward of St. Luke's Hospital, a family that had been broken was healing. 2 babies slept in perfect peace, and love, real love, tested by fire and stronger for it, filled the spaces between heartbeats. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was something better. It was real.